Hey everybody, welcome back to SJG Perspective. I'm going to do a quick overview video of what my next few videos are going to be talking about. I'm going to be talking about color revolutions, coups, they're kind of one and the same in a lot of ways, and what we see happening here November 3rd in just 10, 15 days. 15 days away, guys. We have what is going to be the most contentious election, I think, of history and the most consequential election of history. And what I think is happening, I've been reading a lot about this recently. I've been taking in documents for, I watched some Glenn Beck stuff, which I thought his videos on it were really good. Regardless of your take on Glenn Beck, one way or the other, his videos were very informative. I've read J.B. Shirk's document on this whole scenario that is being laid out before us. I'm trying to find it real quick. How Democrats' attack on the 2020 election legitimacy set the stage for revolution. I want to talk about, I've been reading a lot from Whitney Webb. She wrote an amazing article. We're going to read the whole article. It's a long one. Not tonight, but the bipartisan Washington Insider revealed their plan for chaos if Trump wins, talking about the Transition Integrity Project, right? We're going to go through that. Paul Craig Roberts, James Corbett. Man, there's just a bunch of people that I've been reading and doing some research when it comes to these color revolutions, right? And what is being implemented right now and what's been planned since 2016 and on through deep NGOs and think tanks, DNC related, left Democrat think tanks that have been planning this and putting this in place, the Black Lives Matter movements and how it plays into it, Antifa, how it plays into it, the whole ball of wax, guys, of what we're coming into. Paul Craig Roberts, I read his article last night, and here's kind of I jotted some notes down on it when I was reading this one article that just kind of captures a synopsis of what we're going to be diving into in these upcoming articles that I'm going to be doing, or videos, series, if you will, on them. I'll read you this. This is a synopsis of me reading a couple of Paul Craig Roberts. But the Democrats, press, and the establishment bureaucracy intend to replace our election with a selection. This is something I think has happened for many years. I do think that this has happened. I don't know how honest our elections have been for a long time and how deep-seated the power seat of corruption goes. But this year it's going to be completely transparent, right? In the past, you at least people have at least thought that the democracy and their vote and their elections, it was the will of the people. This year, you're going to see that it's not, that it's going to be completely transparent, that they're going to try to pull off a major selection this year. The selection being Biden and Harris, right? This year, we're going to witness a blatant coup attempt, and in all likelihood, what I'm scared about right now is it's going to succeed. And if it succeeds, it means our country is never the same and democracy completely and totally changes. If Trump wins, the demands that are going to come out of the left are going to be such to set up a complete and total change for the future of our country and our democracy and our voting and everything. They're going to set it up so the DNCs can never lose again, right? So the Democrat can never lose again. They've been positioning people through this whole time, we know this, to think Trump is terribly behind in the polls. That's one thing you keep hearing about, how far behind Trump is in the polls, right? And that he has no hope of winning. They're planning on taking the election whether or not Trump wins. They want it whether or not Trump wins, and they're going to turn the country upside down to get their damn way. If he wins in anything less than an uncontestable landslide of epic proportions, they have laid the groundwork to not concede. The only way all of this shit falls apart is if Trump wins in an uncontestable landslide. If it's close, we are not going to know until January, till Inauguration Day. We may not know by Inauguration Day, honestly. And at that point, continuity of government is set up to kick in. His win will be blamed on voter fraud if he does win, right? Which he's going to come out ahead in the votes. But if it's not an absolute just shellacking, right, he's going to be blamed. It's going to be blamed on voter fraud. And the media will push this propaganda 24/7 nonstop. It is, in fact, the left and the deep-seated think tanks and the NGOs, the non-governmental organizations, who have in fact been prepping this voter fraud. But they tell us, and all you hear on the left and on the media is how this is Republicans, this is Trump, this is conservatives who are setting the stage for election fraud. When in reality, it's the DNC. And again, I've said this in multiple videos. I'll say it now. I'll say it a million times again. Whatever they point you to, whatever they accuse you of, whatever they are accusing the right of doing is always propaganda or is always projection, and it's the plank in their own eye pointing out the speck in the other. It is complete and total projection 100% of the time. Whatever they tell you they care about is the opposite. Whatever they tell you they're doing is the opposite. Whatever they accuse someone else of is exactly what they themselves are doing. The media will push the narrative that Trump is stealing the election. They'll push it with the same ferocity as they did the Russian collusion, the impeachment narrative, and the myriad of other Trump opposition hit pieces and false stories we've been inundated with for the last 4 years. This is what they are doing right now, and will continue to do even more after the election. The DNC has the lion's share of the mainstream media to back this narrative and program the American people with this brainwashing. And that is what is coming. That is what is going to happen. It's not going to be decided on election day, with exception of one, I've said it, a complete shellacking to where it can't even be questioned. But 60-something% or 50% of Democrats are already saying they're going to vote by mail, setting it up so that they can't have the decision on election day. And then they have the ability to play with the numbers, cook the books. We have seen several instances of the DNC-controlled postal service, right? The DNC is a left-leaning, or it's controlled by a union, a Democratic-controlled union. So it's not a friend of the Trump administration. If we're going to be playing any kind of sides here, the Postal Service leans hard left, right? But we've seen several instances of the DNC-controlled Postal Service already committing voter interferences with lost ballots and destroyed ballots. We've already seen that happen with accidents, 50,000 in Ohio, 100,000 up in New Jersey, I think it was, right? We've seen what's happened in the Project Veritas video that recently came out that talked about the Ilhan Omar, right? And I know that's more of a regional, local election, but the deep voter fraud that happened there with the Ilhan Omar and the ballot harvesting and so on and so forth, that has not been debunked. No matter what the left or the media has to say about this, it has not been debunked. James O'Keefe is actually suing some of these news organizations that have claimed it's debunked, because it's not debunked. There's no fraud. There is no manipulation in his reporting. It's true that we see what happened in the Ilhan Omar was complete and total illegal felony ballot harvesting and election interference. And you're wanting to tell me, and you want us to all to believe and to expect that this won't happen in the general election and against Donald J. Trump? Please. The narrative will be given that Trump had the DNC-controlled Postal Service destroy or admit Biden-Harris votes. Remind yourself, the Postal Service, which leans hard left, was controlled by Donald Trump, and he destroyed Biden and Harris votes. When they are accounted for, Trump will be declared the loser of the election. That's what's coming. The only voice during this time will be the blatantly biased mainstream media. Trump's Twitter will be silenced, as will the rest of America's population's ability to contest this narrative. In regards to the most widely used platforms for information dissemination, conservative voices, anything contesting the election, anything that goes against the narrative that Biden won and Trump, it was Trump's fraud, anything that goes against trying to bring truth to that is going to be shut down. We saw what recently happened with the Hunter Biden, right? The Biden scandal with the laptop and the emails. We saw what just happened this last week with that. You're going to tell me, with the most consequential election in history against a president that the left vehemently hates, that the social media is not going to be biased in the way they silence the information? You want to genuinely tell me that? The mainstream social media platforms will silence any dissent against the official narrative. This overwhelming news cycle and the barrage of the left-leaning media will confirm to the less critically thinking Americans, those who are not caught up in this, those who are just tired of all the politics, those who are just whatever, that Trump is in fact guilty and has in fact legitimately lost. There will be little to no counterbalance, and the people are going to believe it. Then you're going to usher in, during this whole time, right as election night's going to kick off, even like we've never seen, BLM, Antifa, far-left activists burning down everything they can. They've already put out a paper called their disruption guidelines. Literally, the left, BLM or Antifa, put out a organizational paperwork on how to disrupt and protest against the election that Donald Trump is going to steal. They're already saying that in this document. Donald Trump's going to try to steal this, and we've got to save it. The far left's going to do that. The only hope we have is an uncontestable election. Things Trump could have done, but it's now he can't do, which kind of make me think, why in the freak wouldn't you do these things? Some of these, one of these. He could have recalled all the military officials that Obama had axed right back in 2012. He could have, Obama went through and just cleared house on generals and the military. He could recall those and get rid of all the military officials right now and the generals that have been outspoken against Trump. But that won't happen because it's too late, and then that also would be a really bad look, and it would look very autocratic and authoritarian, and so he's not going to do that. He could have implemented antitrust laws against these big tech monopolies. Too late to do that. I mean, he hasn't done that. We've heard a lot of lip service about it. Why didn't you do that? Why didn't you get something in place so they didn't have as much power as they have now in the next 3 weeks? He could inform the public about the tentacles of the CIA and what they've done with color revolutions throughout history, what they've done to convince people, or not, what the CIA has done to overthrow governments all over the world. Color revolutions, coups, what they've done, the CIA's plan, what they are doing to us, what we are going to go through, and what I'm going to show you in the information in these next several videos that are going to come out in the next couple days, right? He could have outed that. He could have outed the CIA and said, the deep state CIA military industrial complex, this is what they've done throughout the world. And this is what they are doing right now to you. He could have used that bully pulpit, pulled up in a State of the Union or addressed the nation from the White House and said, listen, this is what the CIA has done. And this is what they're doing right now, and educated the world, educated the people. But if he would have done that, he would have got JFK'd. Let's be real, which is still a very real possibility. We are witnessing a color revolution, guys, a coup. And we're going to talk about that. I also want to, in the following videos after this, in the next week, I want to talk about the coming vaccine and this pandemic that is, or scamdemic, excuse me. It is not a pandemic, this planned scamdemic. COVID-19 is being used to usher in literally a one world order in government. And I know that sounds tinfoil-ish. It's called the Great Reset. It's called Agenda 2030. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's not a tinfoil hat observation. It is legitimately, you can look it up right now, right? They're setting, that's all this COVID has been for, is to set up digital IDing, right? To set up complete and total surveillance over the globe, over every single thing we do, to usher in AI, to really usher in the fourth industrial revolution, which the people and the founders and the authors of the Great Reset and of Agenda 2030 openly and willingly talk about. So these are one of the things we're going to be talking about in the coming days. And I wanted to just give you a synopsis of where I'm headed with some of my videos and where my interests are right now of what I'm looking into and researching. In the meantime, you have a few weeks to get food and preparations, because I don't know if it's going to happen overnight, but distribution will be interrupted. Major violence in the streets. If you're in any kind of an urban area, take precautions now and set stuff up now. Get out now if you can, because urban centers are going to be messy. Spend time with your family. talk to your family, prepare them, let them understand what's going on. If they don't follow any of this, prepare them from what's to come. Many people think, oh, after the election, everything's going to go back to normal. That's not how it's going to go. And if we don't truly all wake up together right now, we are looking at a very dark future in regards to liberty, freedom, what we've known as our Constitution and our freedom to be as Americans. That is our autonomy. That's quickly sliding away. I don't know if it's already too late. I want to fight and I want to go down swinging. But the only way we go down swinging is if we wake up and we understand that this is legitimately happening right now. And we all need to be awake to it. So that is what I wanted to say tonight in this video. I'm going to be doing these other videos coming up. Like I've said, I'm going to have some friends on that I highly trust and I highly respect to discuss some of these things. And so keep an eye out for those that I'm going to be bringing on. And until next time, give me your thoughts. Say, oh, Steven, man, break out the tinfoil hat. Or, oh, yeah, no, I think that's what's happening. Give me your thoughts of where I'm headed with these next few videos. If you hope you like it and hope you're on board with going down this little road with me for the next several weeks with the video focus that I'm doing. And I appreciate everybody who watches these videos and likes them, thumbs up, gives them the thumbs up and shares them. Please follow me on my podcasts now too. You can find me on anchor.fm, find me on Google Podcasts or Spotify and a few other one, Radio Public, I think, or something like that. But podcast, Google Podcast or Spotify, Anchor, you can find me on there at SJG Perspective. I'm putting all of my content up on my podcasts now too. And from there, we're going to be getting a full website going and some other channels because we will get knocked off of YouTube sooner rather than later. So I appreciate everyone for hanging out and listening. We'll talk to you real soon. It's SJG Perspective. Without fear or animus, you guys have a wonderful rest of your night. We'll talk to you real soon. Bye. Not my outro. That was funny. It's not the one I meant to do. That was the one right there. That's funny.